Hello, I'm David Duty, Superintendent of City Schools of Decatur, and I thank you for joining us for this third video in a series we're calling Finance 101. In this video, we're going to be talking about revenues. So our main revenues are tuition and various forms of taxes, local, counties, and state. I'll talk about each of those briefly. For tuition, most of our tuition funding comes through the College Heights Early Childhood Learning Center. All of the programs there are tuition funded, except the pre-K program, which is funded through grants from the state of Georgia. We also have some tuition that comes in from students outside of the district from when we used to accept students for tuition paying, and we have grandfathered those students in. Those numbers get smaller each year as those students graduate out and we don't add any new ones, although we are exploring the possibility of adding tuition students in the future. Our local taxes come in several forms. The main form and the majority of that revenue comes from property taxes that are paid by residents, businesses, anyone who owns property in the city of Decatur. The board sets a millage rate annually that determines how much tax is collected for this purpose. We also do get taxes from alcohol sales within the city of Decatur. In general, that's usually about $300,000 a year, so it's a fairly significant amount of money. It's down a little bit this year due to the COVID pandemic, but we do get taxes from that. And then we also have to collect taxes for a general obligation bond, excuse me, that gets paid on a regular basis. And you may recall about 5 years ago, there was a vote about that GO bond. So you would see that on tax bills as well. And we'll go into more detail about each of those topics in a future video. County taxes come to us in the form of SPLOST, or you may hear it called e-SPLOST. That is a special purpose local option sales tax. It is a 1% sales tax that is on a 5-year cycle and has to be approved by voters every 5 years. It's very limited in what it can be used for. Basically, it's used for capital projects, facilities maintenance, facilities construction, things like that. Some technology purchases. Each 5-year cycle, voters are asked to approve that tax, and with that approval comes a very specific list of how it can be used. The SPLOST funding is on the 5-year cycle, and it is coming up again in the coming year. So you will be hearing more about that very soon. One of the reasons you hear it called e-SPLOST is because there are other SPLOST taxes, like public transportation, for instance, that come up. State taxes come to us in the form of what we call QBE, which is Quality Basic Education Funding. That was established in 1985. It was updated again in 2000. QBE is a very complex formula-driven process where they look at the number of students, they look at what programs those students are in, and they weight based on the needs of what those students have funding accordingly. And so it's very detailed. It splits the day into 6 segments for every kid, and we report out what the kids are doing in each of those 6 segments, and that impacts the funding that is received. So QBE is an extremely complex topic, and we will be going into a series of videos on explaining exactly how all that means. But in general, it's based on the students you have, and it's based on what those students are doing. What programs are they in? What classes are they taking? QB also includes what's called a local 5 mil share. And the idea behind the local 5 mil share is that every district needs to be putting in a certain amount of money based on their property tax revenue. And so QBE automatically takes 5 mils of property tax revenue out of your QBE funding and assumes that you're funding that portion locally. And so you'll see that in some of our budget reports when it says local 5 mil share. So I hope that helps you understand a little bit about our revenue sources. Those are our primary ones. There's some others. There's small ones. There's grants we get. There's some federal funding we get, things like that. So I hope that helps explain where our revenues come from. And if you're really interested and you want a lot more detail about exactly how property taxes work, exactly how QBE works, we'll go into that in a future video. So I hope you'll wait for that.